Trump has a problem no one is talking about, and this time it's not political. It's financial, and it's about to blow up right in front of him. Today, you'll learn why 25% of the US debt maturing this year could cause major financial problems, and how this could affect the global economy. I'll also explain why there is so much stock market volatility, as well as the use of tariffs as a bargaining tool. Finally, you'll see how billions of dollars are moving around, the true impact on the markets, and how you can use this market volatility to protect yourself or even profit. And before we dive in, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. So let's get started. As Trump mentions in his book, The Art of the Deal, it's crucial to use power, but even more so to create the perception that you hold more power than you actually do during any negotiation. When Trump won the election, Wall Street was thrilled. The major stock indices shot up, creating a sense of optimism that a new era of growth had begun. However, that excitement quickly faded. Soon after, indices like the S&P 500, Nasdaq, and Russell 2000 began to drop sharply, falling by 15 to 25% in just a few sessions. And then, in a sudden and unexpected plot twist, boom, tariffs are suspended for 90 days for everyone except China, which is hit with a flat rate of 125% on all its imports. Meanwhile, the stock market surges, jumping more than 10% in a single session. The question is inevitable. What on earth is driving the markets into this frenzy? Many pointed to tariffs, Trump's controversial statements, or geopolitical tensions. But the real reason behind this volatile behavior lies in the modern economy's dependence on debt. Well, this year 25% of the total US debt matures. And the worst thing is that 70% of that debt matures in the first half of the year. Until recently, refinancing this debt was easy. For years, interest rates were so low that borrowing was almost free. With negative real rates, it was even profitable. For example, if you borrowed 100, it was possible to pay back 99.5 in real valuation. However, everything changed from 2021 onwards. Inflation forced the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates sharply, reaching 5 to 5.25%. Today, refinancing the national debt is no longer a simple task. It's a growing cost that could destabilize the country's budget. In fact, interest payments alone now represent the third largest government expenditure, after healthcare and pensions, amounting to a staggering $1.15 trillion. If this massive debt is refinanced at rates near 4%, it could cause a significant strain on the federal budget, especially with many countries now increasing their military spending. So, is this situation being deliberately orchestrated? Interestingly, there are signs that this could be part of a larger strategy. If you're facing such a massive debt that's hard to refinance without shaking the markets, and you can't afford a collapse, your best option might be to take control and deliberately slow down the economy. Trump himself has commented on this before, when asked about the possibility of a recession in 2025, saying, "Who knows? I hate to predict things like that. There's a transition period because what we're doing is so big." In other words, he didn't rule it out. So how does an economy cool down? In this case, it's mainly through demand. Rather than targeting the credit market with high interest rates, as the Federal Reserve has been doing for the past 3 years, the Trump administration appears to be focusing on implementing strict trade measures. The goal is to create enough tension to make money start flowing out of the stock market. But that money doesn't just vanish, it gets redirected. For example, when headlines like Nvidia loses $600 billion in a single session, or similar drops in Tesla and other tech stocks appear, the millions lost don't disappear. Instead, they're converted into liquidity that moves into safer assets or different regions, such as Asia, Europe, gold, or in this case, fixed income investments. And this is where the first part of the potential plan comes into play, redirecting capital into the bond market. The more money that flows into bonds, the lower their yields become. When yields fall, the Treasury can issue new debt at a lower cost, which is exactly what it needs right now. For example, the yield on the 10-year bond has dropped by 13% in just 2 months. While this is significant, it's still not enough. On top of that, the Federal Reserve needs a reason to lower interest rates. And what better justification than to accelerate the cooling of the global economy with tariffs on a wide range of goods? In the end, by imposing outrageous tariffs and then suddenly suspending them for 90 days, 2 key things are achieved. First, on an economic level, it stirs up uncertainty around consumer confidence. Will the tariffs come back? Will they not? People aren't sure whether to spend, hold off, or hedge their bets. More tariffs could lead to higher prices, possibly lower consumption, reduced investment, and slower growth. Just take a look at the current consumer confidence index. It's at pandemic-era lows. In an economy like the US, where over 70% of GDP relies on consumer spending, affecting consumer confidence is a direct way to slow things down. By triggering this slowdown, the Federal Reserve can step in and lower interest rates. This gives the economy a chance to recover, and at that point, debt can be refinanced without causing the system to collapse. And second, on the political front, it serves to isolate China from global trade. Now, every other country will want to keep trade flowing smoothly with the US. The fact that China faces sky-high tariffs won't impact those nations' own trade interests with the Americans. If anything, it makes the US an even more attractive partner in contrast. So, despite the chaos, there may be more calculation behind all this than it seems. The stock market drops, tensions with Europe, and aggressive messaging all point to one goal: buying time. Time to refinance a massive debt that's at risk of blowing up. Let's face it, the plan is pretty risky. It challenges old trade and political alliances in an effort to save the economy. The big question is whether it will work. If everything goes to plan, we could see significant interest rate cuts, economic recovery, and possibly a slowdown in the tariff war in a few months. But if it doesn't work, the plan could lead to a full-blown trade war, sparking inflation, trade barriers, and potentially triggering a global recession. What do you think? Does this plan make sense? Should Europe renegotiate tariffs with the US, or should it look to regions like Mercosur or Asia? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see how this plays out. And in the meantime, I've linked a video that you might find interesting if you're keen to learn more about and potentially benefit from this situation. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.